Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Glad to be back. New week, January 12th, 2026. Still kind of weird saying 2026 so far, but we'll get used to it, I'm sure, later in the year. But yes, January 12th, new week, Monday. Happy Monday to everyone out there. Got a great guest coming up, new episode. So before we get started, hit my music. Let's get it. All right. Once again, happy Monday. Welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. It is January 12th, 2026. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Glad to be back with a new episode and very excited about this one as well. As always, you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it is Spotify, Apple, YouTube, BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, BS3 Network, Roku channel, Spreaker, wherever you get podcasts, you consume them. You can download it there. You can follow me on all the social media platforms, whether it is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky. I'm active on a couple of those. So follow the Real Deal with Courtney Hart on those platforms and you will find it there. So, all right, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I got a great guest on the way. Been wanting to get her on the show for a while. We made it happen and so glad that we connected on LinkedIn and other platforms there. She's women's sports. She is through and through there, does a lot of work in women's sports as well. Storyteller, educator, former Outback Bowl Bloomin' Onion, and it goes by her name as well. Host of Hang Time show as well. And I want to welcome to the show, Dr. Tayler Onion. Welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm fired up to be here. I gotta get you to come and do an intro for me every time I do anything.
Oh, okay. Anytime. You can always hit me up. I'm willing to do that. Yeah, I always want to give my guests their proper introduction. I do my best to do that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it first and foremost. But we were just talking before we start recording. I was just going to ask you how you've been. How's everything going? How's your new year starting so far?
Yeah, New Year has started off great. Had a birthday last week, so always love the start of the year. It's time to reset and get some new goals, some new resolutions. Kind of do all my planning, my vision boarding for 2026. Always happens the first few weeks of January, so it's been off to a good start.
Yes, it's always good to have those boards and those vision boards and plans and things like that, and New Year's resolutions if you do those things too. So hopefully you accomplish all those things that you have planned for the new year and everything too. But I really appreciate you accepting the invite to come on and get to know you a little bit. So again, I can't thank you enough.
For sure. I'm fired up to be here.
All right. Let's get started. Well, first question I always ask my first time guests, who is Dr. Tayler Onion and how did you get to where you are today?
Ooh, this could be a really long-winded answer. So
that's fine. Go as long as you want.
I'll give you the synopsis. Who is Dr. Tayler Onion? First and foremost, I'm a farm kid. So I grew up on a farm in a town about 500 people in West Central Illinois. My family does corn and soybeans. We've got some livestock as well, but always start there. From there, I went on to the University of Illinois. I played volleyball there for 4 years, got a couple of degrees. One was a bachelor's degree in advertising. And then, like so many college student athletes, I hit that second semester of my senior year in college. And I was like, I don't really want to, I'm not ready for a real job. And
right.
Yeah. I know what I'm going to do. So how about a master's degree? So I got my master's in recreation, sport, and tourism with a focus in sport management. And that's where I got my start working in athletics. So I worked in event management for athletics at the University of Illinois for about a year and a half and had the opportunity to work NCAA championships. The first event I ever worked was the NCAA Division I tennis championship. We held that right in Champaign. We did Big Ten women's soccer while I was there. the Illinois High School Sports Association. We hosted the IHSA football playoffs as well. And in between that, I got to go to the United Center for a basketball game. I got to go to Soldier Field for a football game. And so tons of really, really cool experiences working in sports. But I realized, I think pretty early on, that events, at least at that time, I didn't think it was going to be my long-term career plan.
Right.
And so I missed some of the kind of interactions that I had as a student athlete, and got into academics and student athlete development. And so I've spent the bulk of my career in that space. From, again, the University of Illinois, I went to Western Illinois University, went to the University of Memphis for a full-time internship there, and then Southern Illinois Carbondale, to the University of South Florida for 4 years, and then to a tech company. And then that brings us to almost to present day. I spent the last couple of years as the Associate Athletic Director for External Relations at Western Illinois University. And so working in mostly major gifts fundraising, but also some corporate sponsorships and annual giving and all of those fun things. And then just started last fall, my first semester as an assistant teaching professor in the sport management program at the University of Missouri in St. Louis. And so have been kind of enjoying. It's been very interesting to be on the academic side of things, kind of behind the curtain, if you will. Not unlike what it is to be behind the curtain in college athletics too, but it's been a good adjustment. It's given me a lot of time to focus on hang time as well on my podcast and kind of get that up and running. And so, yeah, that brings us to present day.
All right. I love the journey. I love hearing the journey of how all my guests, how they got into just not just sports, but the journey of what they did, how they got to where they are today and everything too. So a couple of things I want to ask you about. You said, your collegiate background, your as an athlete and everything too. Do you feel like that has where you are today molded you to what you're doing today? How much of an impact that had on you to education?
Oh yeah. I mean, that my experience as a volleyball student athlete at Illinois set the foundation for everything that I have done in my life since then. I feel like I got my graduate assistantship and my start in athletics because I was a student athlete.
Yeah.
I can remember during the interview for my graduate assistantship position, I went in, I'm prepared. My mom was a college of business professor at Western Illinois. And so she's prepped me, resumes, mock interviews, all the things. And I can remember going into that interview and feeling very ready to be asked typical interview questions. And instead, they, the folks who were interviewing me were colleagues of my coaches. And so they were like, "Oh, we heard you babysat for Dan, your coach last weekend. How was that?" It was right. So the relationships that you build as a student athlete, they just continue to give back. And for me, especially, I don't know if you can see my dog's tail.
Yeah, he wants to make an appearance. Why not?
But those experiences, those relationships that I built during my time as a student athlete at Illinois have just been absolutely foundational to everything else that I've done since then.
Yeah, that absolutely. What would you say is one of the most rewarding things through your journey, from your early journey, even today, the most rewarding of all that you've accomplished and continue to accomplish?
Ooh, most rewarding. That's tough.
I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sure there's a few, probably in different stages, I'm sure.
Yes, there's different things of different stages. The first thing, though, that came to my mind, Courtney, is the relationships. And I'm sure that's like cliche to say, but the relationships, not just from Illinois and not just from my student athlete experience, but truly the relationships that I've made with colleagues at every single stop that I've had. Again, talk about, stuff that's foundational and kind of helps you post college career. And as you move from job to job or field to field, those relationships that I have formed are, again, I've used the word foundational a lot, but they really are. I mean, those folks are my mentors. Those folks are, people that I call on. I just interviewed one of my former coaches for my podcasts, and we'll keep up with them. My teammates that I played with at Illinois, we're still close today. I just went to, an engagement party a couple weeks ago for one of my teammates. The group chat is always firing.
I bet.
And, in some of the other jobs that I've had, those folks are people who still serve as recommendations, as references for me. And so those relationships are the things that have, kind of the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, for sure. You're right. I think that's very important, and I agree with you. It might be cliche, but it's very important with the relationship that you have developed over the years and the connections. And hey, look, we connected just maybe a month or so ago on LinkedIn. I saw some of your work on LinkedIn and listened to the podcast and found it very interesting. So that's why I reached out. So, but that's where I think it's very important. The networking opportunities and relationships you develop is very important. It is foundational. So like I said, it might sound cliche, but it's so true.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, let's get into some of the things that you said that you're doing now. But before I get into that, leadership roles, you've been in some leadership roles. How has that transformed to success for you?
Yeah, I think leadership for me is something that I've been fascinated with since a really young age. You can probably attribute that. Before my mom was a professor, she was an assistant director for alumni relations at Western, and she used to run the student group, so the Student Alumni Council.
Oh, yeah.
I can remember as a kid, my brother and I, of course, we would go, mom picks us up from school or somebody picked us up from school, and we would be at the alumni house on the campus of Western Illinois University. Typically, we would check out the meeting for a little bit, and then we would go and rollerblade on the campus.
Yes.
But I think, all jokes aside, that truly was my first kind of foray into leadership group and working with students and student programming. And I think I've used those things, they've kind of, obviously I have my own experiences, but they've kind of built along the way. And so I think from a leadership standpoint, as a student athlete, there are so many things that you can inherently kind of take away from your experience. When I was at South Florida, we used to talk about that because we wanted to build an academy where our student athletes could really talk about leadership.
Right.
Again, get these skills so inherently as an athlete, but we don't necessarily have a space where we're talking about how those skills can transfer from the court, the field, the track, the pool into your real life, and what does that look like? And so I think that's always been kind of a fascination for me in particular.
Yeah.
And I you could probably refer to me as a leadership junkie. I like to read, Brene Brown and Adam Grant and find myself listening to, podcasts and different things, and even watching shows. When we built the academy at South Florida, we didn't have a really kind of, academically structured academy for our student athletes. We were pulling things from pop culture and how can you apply, what just happened on the news or what just happened on Instagram or TikTok or whatever to what we're doing, again, in the classroom, on the field, on the court, within your families, with your classmates. How can you kind of apply those leadership skills? And so I think, again, for me, because I love leadership so much and leadership development, it has been something that I have, focused on at various different stages of my career, and something I continue to enjoy kind of reading up on and polishing those skills at every stop.
Yeah, because on your website, when I was doing my research, it does say you're very passionate about the love of leadership development and unlocking that human potential and driving high performance cultures. And I think that's fascinating. You said over a decade of experience in leadership, and you said curriculum program design. You said you like to study it, you like to, implement it in what you're doing even today with education and things like that. I think it's very important.
Yeah, again, it's in every facet of our lives, whether we want it to be or not. For me, I think that, in addition to my experiences watching my mom as a kid, the experience that I had at the University of Illinois, I mentioned it was foundational. Truly, the program, the culture that we had while I was there, and my head coach is, all of the coaches are in different places, but my head coach is now at Stanford. And so the things that he did so well in building our culture was to ensure that we were all invested, whether we were starting All-American outside, which I was not, or somebody who's on the bench, which I was as a walk-on. he did such a good job of making sure that we were all equally invested in the team, that we understood our role. And not only that, but that we understood the importance of our role and how we can contribute. And I think that that culture and that mindset has then filtered over for me. I've seen how, in work environments, when you have a really good boss who's focused on that and focused on the relationships and the culture of the workplace, it's a more fun place to be, right? And when you have somebody who's maybe not as focused on that, or they don't have the capacity to be as focused on that, you have a completely different experience. And so truly that the leadership and people who are in leadership positions certainly set the tone. But again, my experience as a student athlete was very, it showed very strongly that you can really lead from any seat in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And, said from a team aspect in any sport, he said, if you have a great leader, coach, leader at the top, whether it's the owners, whatever, CEO, things like that, in the environment, they talk about culture all the time when it comes to the team, especially with team sports. If you have that culture, you're having fun, and he said the team knows their roles and things like that. You usually have great success. You usually win, and even if you don't, it's that journey of, okay, you come as one as a team, come as one as a team. It's so much better, and you see the results of success, and that starts with leadership.
Yeah, and we did at Illinois, right? Like it was 2 Sweet 16s back to back, and then a national championship run. And so, we saw it on the court. I shared that I just was at an engagement party. I've got 3 teammates who are getting married this summer, and I'll be at
a lot of weddings.
But I think that to me is indicative of how powerful and how strong that culture was, that now 15 years later, like we're still making an effort to get together, to support each other, to like, we're all still friends. And we when we get together, we pick up just like it's 2011, 2012 again.
Right. Like you said, you guys have a group chat and everything. And I think that's great. The camaraderie when a team, even after, and years later, you're still, like you said, never missed a beat. Like you're still playing, like you're still together every day. I think that just goes to show where it started at, as with the leadership from the top, and then you guys really enjoyed yourself. So it's good. That's always good to hear as well. All right, let's get into some women's sports. I know you're big, you're in it, you played, you're all in everything too. Storytelling in women's sport, I know that's very important to you from your podcast and things like that too. Talk about the landscape of women's sports and how much it has evolved just over the last 5-7 years, from volleyball to basketball to media, business. Talk about the landscape of women's sports and how it evolved.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you back actually even further than that. I think a lot of times this education, this history is lost today because it's been a little bit of time. So in 1972, Title IX was passed.
Yes, absolutely.
And I won't spend a ton of time in there because I wasn't there for it. But I think the misconception is that, Title IX was passed and women had opportunities right away. It's great. Not the case, right? It took another 10-ish years for the NCAA to decide they wanted to sponsor women's sports. That was 1981. And so really it's been, 40 some years since we've had kind of women's sports in the form as we've known it in the recent past, right? I think you see things. I was just watching a series on the 85ers, so the U.S. women's national soccer team.
Oh yeah, yep.
The first one, and kind of the struggles that they went through. Think about the women of the WNBA, which launched in 1997, and we're not even a league that's 30 years old yet, and they are facing a ton of scrutiny right now because the general narrative is to say the NBA the WNBA loses money.
30% revenue at all. Yeah. So
And there's so many, on that note, there's so many good reels. There's so many good TikToks of people who are really concisely explaining why WNBA players deserve to be paid. So if you have questions, and if you're one of those people who's thinking, why should they be paid? The league loses money. Go find those reels and TikToks and do some research and learn something new. But I think these, those things are all pivotal moments for women's sports. I think about, the women's national team and their fight for pay equity. Certainly, even before that, Billie Jean King has kind of laid the foundation. Without her fighting for equity and equal pay in tennis, we probably don't have a Venus and Serena Williams. We probably don't have a Coco Gauff. We probably don't have, some of these athletes that we have today. And so I think those are all really, really pivotal moments. In the last 5 to 7 years, what has happened is thanks due in large part to social media, thanks due in large part to kind of this perfect storm, right? Like the ability for traditional media to shift their focus a little bit. We have these superstars now. Certainly the Caitlin Clark effect is real. And that's not to say that these folks didn't exist before. There have always been stars and great personalities and great athletic talents in women's sports. This is not a surprise to those of us who have been passionate about women's sports from the beginning. But it truly is a shift in media and the rise of social media that has helped individual athletes build individual brands and become more household names. Like social media has enabled college athletes, high school athletes to now become household names in a way that we only saw previously through a newspaper or through the Olympics or through, Lisa Leslie dunked. Everybody's going to know about that because it was newsworthy content. Yeah. But it's not just the one individual, women's sports athlete. It's everything that's happening all the time. And so there's still so much work, more work to be done. We know that the media coverage is not anywhere close to equitable right now. But again, this kind of boom that we're having is really the way that I think about it. Like this stuff has always been happening, and it's just like the operator of the spotlight just shifted, right? And is now just paying attention so that more people are aware and more people can pay attention. But it's super exciting. These leagues that are popping up with Unrivaled from a volleyball standpoint, you've got Love League One Volleyball. We've got Athletes Unlimited Pro Volleyball. You've got the Major League Volleyball that just merged with the Pro Volleyball Federation. The NWSL is expanding. The PWHL is expanding. Like the opportunities for women athletes and for women working in sports and for those who want to work in women's sports and support women in that space, the opportunities have never been greater.
That's very well said. I'm not even going to add anything to it because it was great. I mean, because I felt the same way. And the one thing one of the things that said that was very important is that it's always been there. It's just now, as you said, it's shifting, which is great to see. It's really good to see, and it continues to keep shifting, continue to keep evolving and booming and things like that. And as a person that I've always been an advocate, always been someone who's has pushed this for years. Women, it just needed the coverage, just needed some sponsors, whatever, TV deals, all these things, and it's finally happening because you said it's before. Yes, the Caitlin Clark it is real. That is a real shift. What she's been able to do with Angel Reese and all them. But you have the Serena Williams before that. You have the Simone Biles. You have all these Venus Williams, all these athletes from before, and now it's just. It's good. It's great to see. I always say it should have already happened, but I'm not going to be the one to say yes, it should have happened. But it's here, and the trajectory keeps going up, and I love seeing it.
Yeah, I think the best example of that, Courtney, of the it should have already happened, is to think about the 1999 women's national soccer team.
National soccer team, yeah.
Mia Hamm and Julie Foudy, and for me, I think the most iconic women's sports photo is the Brandy Chastain knee slide.
She's sliding, yes.
Like I can
took the shirt, yes.
Yeah, and my mom she cheered in college. She's not your traditional sports fan, I would say. She loves sports. She was a cheerleader, so she's been around them, but in terms of like playing, not your traditional. But I can remember her when I was a kid saying, "Isn't this awesome?" Like having seen, she's having me to soccer and basketball and volleyball practices, and she's like, "Well, isn't this cool?" Like she's a sports bra, she slid, and that I think was such a cool.
Yeah.
women can be powerful athletes as well, and dominant athletes as well, and we can celebrate in the same ways that the guys do, and it can be, cool and just great for representation. But that 99 team, again, like that really was like they were packing stadiums, they had the media
Yes.
coverage, and then as soon as the season was over, they kind of faded into the background for whatever reason. But the difference now is the social media and the ability of the individual athlete to build their own brand without having to have those traditional media outlets.
Yeah, that's yes, and I think that's another thing too. The social media and more platforms, podcasts, TV deals, as we said, it gives more opportunity, as you said earlier, and it gives more coverage. Now, like yeah, there's opportunities there. It's just let's keep taking advantage of it, and let's keep pushing even the ones that are advocates for women's sports to really push the because look at even like the NCAA, the college basketball the March Madness it's become more popular than the men's. It's just it has been over the last few years. So and yeah, the coverage is great to see. And you said now you have more platforms to really push it to the forefront. And I love seeing it each and every day.
Yeah, I'm with you. Same.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. All right, let's talk about the podcast. You started in April. You started the Bloom Pod, which you interviewed everyday people chasing big dreams. Now in February of 2025, the Bloom Pod evolved into a new show, Hang Time, which focuses on telling stories of women in sports, coaches, athletes, administrators, and beyond. Talk about a little bit about the podcast, how it got started, and what do you want people to know about the podcast?
Yeah, so the Bloom Pod you mentioned back in April of 2020. So it's been now this will be 6 years ago.
Yes. We
Crazy,
know it's there, pandemic, COVID. Yes. Yeah, yes.
crazy to think about.
It's a crazy time, right?
Early in 2020, before COVID was even a thing, I had kind of started floating the idea to some friends, if I were to start a podcast, like what would you listen to? And the thing we landed on was just having conversations. Like I think as a group, my friends included, but we have a lot of folks in our lives who are doing some really cool things. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of folks who are in higher education, who are in sports. And so that's what the Bloom Pod really became. It was an opportunity, kind of twofold for me individually. It was an opportunity to connect with folks during quarantine in those early days of COVID.
Yeah.
Have an opportunity to connect with people who some I already knew and some I didn't know. And so to make new connections and all of those great things. But it was also an opportunity for me to practice my interview skills as I was inching closer to the interview portion of my dissertation. And so the Bloom Pod had, I think 4 or 5, maybe 5 seasons between April of 2020 through May of 2023. And when I got my most recent role at Western Illinois University, took a little bit of a break. And then I had a friend who was kind of politely pushing me, is how I frame it, to podcasting. And so
Yeah.
she and I had talked a lot about, should it be a series, and would we focus on women in sports? Would we focus on Title IX education? Would we focus on, what would it be? And the more we talked, the more I started to think, if we do this special series and we're talking about women's sports and women in sports, I don't know that when we get to the end of it, whatever that may be, that I'll want to go back to not talking about women's sports or women in sports.
Right.
And so that really is the origin story for Hang Time, which launched in end of February, beginning of March in 2025, which is also crazy that now we'll be coming up on a year of Hang Time.
Yeah.
We did 21 episodes every other week and had some pretty fantastic guests from the PGA of America, from the Dub in Kansas City, which is Kansas City's first women's sports bar. We had professors on. We had the director of research and insights from Parity. We had athletes, coaches, executives, all the above.
Yeah.
It's been just such a fun opportunity for me, again, still to connect with people and have conversations. But I I think my favorite thing is that I'm having conversations that I would want to listen to. That's kind of the drive behind
Yes.
the conversations that I have. You mentioned at the beginning, hearing people's background and journeys is something that you love to hear. I'm the exact same way.
Yep.
I had a seminar in college, and every Friday or whatever it was, we would have somebody come in and they would talk us through from graduation day up until now what they had done. And I think those types of conversations are so, so important, particularly for those of us who have no idea what we want to do.
Yeah.
Friends who are doctors, and they've known since age 8. I was not that person, right? I was somebody who's like, I like sports and I like creative things, but I don't really know what that looks like.
Right.
I think there's so many things that that are of interest to me, and so one of the most helpful things truly was to be able to hear people talk about their career path. And as you start to listen to those journeys, you can start to see yourself in different positions and different jobs and industries, and start to form kind of a thought or some form of representation of, oh, I can see myself, in these roles.
Yeah, yes, I really I concur with all that. That's the same. Like to start a podcast, just wanting to hear people's stories, loved hearing their journey, and just interviewing and conversating. And again, just like what you said with your podcast, you want to something that you would want to hear. So why not do it yourself as well and interview people that you find fascinating and just want to hear a little bit more about where they've started and things like that. Learn something from them and or whatever it is. So yeah, so I started listening to your podcast. I loved it. Loved the thought of some of the guests you've had, and so you definitely have a listener in me. So I'm going to continue to keep listening for sure. But I love the why of the podcast too. And you also do a 3 fun things in sports week as well, which I find fascinating because you could always find there's always something during the week of sports. There's always something going on, and there's so much. And to narrow it down to 3, how did that all get started?
Yeah, it started really just with even before Hang Time launched, I was kind of starting to. There were so many things happening, especially early last year with women's sports. The launch of Unrivaled, the launch of Love in their first season, League One volleyball, and all these kind of different things were happening so fast, and I didn't feel like they were getting the media attention or the audience attention that they deserved. I felt like it was like popcorn, right? Like new volleyball league, new basketball league. This is happening. Somebody over here set a record. This person's retiring. Yeah. It just was so much at once. And so for my own purposes, really, again, Hang Time was conversations that I want to have. And 3 fun things in sports is really, okay, how do we start to shift this narrative that like it's sports and then women's sports. So I was very intentional in this is just 3 fun things in sports, but I'm only focusing on, women's sports and kind of or women in sports. And so for me, it really genuinely was stuff that popped up in my LinkedIn feed or in my other social feeds. And I'm like, this is fun. Let's highlight it.
Yeah.
There were so many that I was like, all right, 3 feels like a good number and something that, is consumable, but also realistic for me. To put together with everything else that I've got going on. And so, yeah, it's been fun. It became a weekly, moved from like a random, LinkedIn post to now a newsletter in September. And we shared on Hang Time socials as well. And so, yeah, just a fun way to highlight fun things in sports.
Yeah, and I love it because I think the last one I'm looking at, you talked about the LPGA, announced their partnership with TMRW Sports, a women's only arena golf league later this year. Someone might not even know that might have slipped under the cracks. The PWHL, announced that their matchup will take place in Abraham, Madison Square Garden. That's big. That's huge. That's a huge story. Yeah. Huge story. Yes, we see the big names, the big stars, which is great. But those are those stories that you said that falls under the cracks. But someone might sign up for the newsletter and get these types of stories and find it very fascinating, especially anybody that follows sports and women's sports. I think it's great. There's like I said, there's something every day. There's something going on every day. It's hard to catch up. You could be on social media all day. You're gonna miss something. I've missed so many things, and I'm always checking things on. Probably like you yourself. You're always checking things, but you're like, wait, I didn't know that story, and it was maybe a couple weeks ago, and then it just, like I said, falls under the cracks sometimes.
Yeah, I think, well, you can see in this week's newsletter too, I had an honorary fourth thing because I couldn't narrow it down just to
Yeah.
this week. So I think that's, if there's any indication that there's so many great things happening in women's sports and for women in sports right now, that's it. Like they're everywhere.
Yeah, so much is happening too. Got Winter Olympics coming up. You got Unrivaled, which has been, yeah, I'm a big Unrivaled. I'm part of their and on their media thing. I do a lot of stuff with their media, so it's
Awesome.
been good to, yeah. So they're coming here to Philadelphia 2 weeks, actually 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
I'm doing some coverage with that. So you have that. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things. You said the WNBA and the collective bargaining. That's been a story over this last year, really. And so yeah, a lot of great stories is coming up in more and more and more. And so I can't wait to see what else you're going to be writing about and just to see the big stories coming up as well. All right, just got a couple more before I let you go. I could talk to you for hours, but for time, I will I will cut it with these last two questions. Two fun ones. I want to. What advice would you give to your younger self or to women entering this male-dominated sports industry today?
I think I would say to both, right? To my younger self and to folks who are coming up in sports in general right now, but particularly to women who are wanting to get started in sports, is be patient. That is a virtue that still to this day I struggle with, and I think part of that is just like the society that we live in, right? Like everything is right now. We want the instant gratification, the instant satisfaction, but patience is so important, especially when it comes to building a career. And I think the other thing I would say is one of the 4 agreements. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but it's don't take things personally. I think that having that mindset, and of course it's easier said than done, but I think that mindset is more beneficial than not when it comes to broadly just living your life, but also when it comes to working in sports, to working in a male dominated field. A lot of times you might be a part of a conversation that feels very personal, and if you can find a way to compartmentalize those things and kind of let stuff slide off your back, I think you'll be much better off. And again, that resilience, that staying power for careers in sports, those 2 things are, I would say, 2 of the most important.
I like that. Don't take it personal. Yeah, because I think that's very good. Just in life in general, because when you are in this type of industry, sports media industry, you're gonna get a lot of no's. You're gonna get, if you're applying, say, for this job, credentials, and anything like that, there's gonna be no's, but you're gonna get that yes too eventually. You just can't take it personally. You got to just keep on. Like I said, it's easier said than done, but you got to keep moving, kind of roll things off your back, because it is a competitive industry, sports in general, but from athletes to media and business, you just have to continue to keep pushing forward and don't take things personal. I do like that as well. Got to ask you about your I know if you're a fan of Chicago Bears, I'm assuming.
I like the Bears. I'm from Illinois.
Okay.
I watched the game the other night. I was cheering for them. I grew up a Steelers fan.
Okay.
Steelers, and then I lived in Tampa for 6 years, so I cheer for the Bucs. So pretty bummed out that they didn't make the playoffs.
Right. Because I was going to say how with the Bears, but Steelers plays tonight as well. So what's your feeling of the Steelers, the game tonight, and what do you think of the Chicago Bears actually getting to the second round? I'm disappointed because I'm an Eagles fan today, so I'm still going through my emotions with that. But I'm kind of over it. Like I said, don't take it personal. So I'm doing okay now after a disappointing season, but that's sports. But how the Bears and Steelers? What's your take on their season so far?
I haven't followed either super closely. I'll peek at a score every once in a while.
Right.
My dad, I think, he was much more of a fan, I'll say, than when we were kids. It seems like he's like kind of, fading on it. He still likes the Steelers, but he's not
Right.
as invested as he was when we were kids. But I hope they win. I mean, that's probably the best I can say for the Steelers.
Yeah. Yeah.
About the team this year, I think with the Bears, I had no idea how well their season was going until the last maybe like a month or 2 months ago.
Okay. Yeah.
My mom's really good friends. She's a diehard Bears fan, and she was with us for one of the holidays, hanging out, and so she's like, "We got to turn the Bears game on." I'm like, "Hey, the Bears were doing this well this season."
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
on national TV and live games. Yeah.
easy,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, most of my teammates are Bears. So talking about the group chats, like they were fired up the other night with the Bears win. So I'm about it. I hope they. The Cardiac Bears is a nickname I keep hearing being floated around. And certainly at the end of the game the other night was that way. So
Yes.
maybe they maybe not as close, maybe not as down to the wire as it was Saturday night, but we'll see.
That was, I mean, it was a wild card weekend, as they say. It was a very wild card weekend.
Yes.
This past weekend, a lot of great games. The Bears game, watching that was on Saturday night, and the Packers were up 21-3.
Yeah.
And the Bears, this entire season, that's been their motto, Cardiac Bears. They come back, they make comebacks. And I was saying to my wife, I said, it's not over. I said, the Bears are going to make this a game. Now, winning, I didn't know, but we'll see. And once they just, I mean, it was so up and down. They had opportunities. They had so many chances to get the lead, take the lead. Then it was a turnover. It was like, okay, then the Packers they weren't doing anything. Like they just allowed the Bears to stay in the game, and they pulled it off. It was such an epic game. It was a tremendous game.
Yeah.
The Bears, they got a good shot. They got a really good shot.
Yep. We'll see if they can. I mean, hopefully they can start off a little better. Maybe.
Yes. They got to start better. They definitely got to start better.
They have made a win more times than not this season.
Yeah, they definitely got to start much better. Got the Rams this week. That'll be a tough game this coming weekend. So we'll see. It's now my Eagles I'm not as invested anymore, of course, but I love football, so I'll watch. But it's the Eagles would have had to play the Bears too if they've lost. They did lose early in the year in Black Friday to the Bears, so that would have been a rematch. But the Bears, they're gonna be tough. Like you said, just got to start better, and hopefully they don't have to come into these last second games where they have to make a comeback all the time. So for sure. All right, last question. This is a fun one. I want to ask you is if you could have a billboard with any message on it for the world to see, what would it say?
It would say amplify women in sports. Same tagline as Hang Time. Yeah. But I think that, again, we talked about shifting the focus and kind of moving the spotlight. That to me is the biggest thing. Like we need to amplify these stories and amplify the voices of women who are working in that space and competing and coaching and working in the space. And simple as that. Amplify women in sports.
Amplify women in sports. I love that. I love it. Love it. Yes, simple and powerful for sure. And then that's what much needed, and where we continue to keep seeing it. As I said, see the rise of women in sports. So Tayler, it has been a pleasure getting to know you. A pleasure having you on. Really, really appreciate it. Love the conversation. Love to have you back on again during whatever March Madness, and everything too. So I hope we can stay connected as well. But like I said, appreciate the time. Thank you again. And but let everyone know where they can follow you on social media, want to reach out to you, subscribe to the podcast, all those things. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Yeah. LinkedIn is probably the most active space for me personally. And you can find me there. It's just my first and last name. And then from a Hang Time standpoint, it's at Hangtime P0D on every social you can think of. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on X. We're not as active on X, but we're there. LinkedIn, the newsletter is through my personal LinkedIn. So if you want to follow along with those 3 fun things, you can do so and subscribe to my newsletter there. But yeah, that's the basics. Courtney, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you again. And as everyone, subscribe. As we always say, like, subscribe, share, all those things. Reach out if you have questions or anything like that. And Tayler will definitely definitely respond and everything too. So again, like, subscribe, and share, and all those things. So thanks again. I really appreciate it. And like I said, hope we'll do this again.
You bet. I look forward to it.
All right. Look forward to it too. All right, enjoy the week, and talk to you soon.
All right. Same to you.
Thank you.